Hello PWR members, welcome to another Power Minute. Today I'm pleased to have as a guest Rob Hahn. Many of you know Rob Hahn. He's a famous blogger and real estate analyst, and we're pleasure to have you here at the summit.
Great. Thank you, Al.
Okay. And Rob, you talked a little bit today about the White House report.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So the White House just recently released a report on occupational licensing. Now, they didn't mention realtors, by name, by reference, but the general tone of this report is that it's really unfriendly to the notion of occupational and professional licensing. They claim that it results in millions of jobs being lost. It results in hundreds of billions of cost to consumers. So on the whole, the White House at least is not real favorable to the notion of occupational licensing. Now, obviously, real estate agents are all licensees.
True.
One of the things that they talk about, though, is that if licensing wasn't done properly, this is a good thing for the consumer. But what does properly mean? What does carefully actually mean? And if you look at it, there are a couple of things that I sort of took away from it. One of them is that the requirements of the license are closely related or closely matched to the requirements for doing the job. Well, you know and I know one of the problems we have in the industry.
It's easy to pass the test.
It's extremely easy to pass the test, and how closely can we say they're really matched to the day-to-day work of a realtor? I don't know that anything's going to come of this. I mean, this was just an initial report. But let's put it this way, it's not out of the question that some state somewhere might decide we don't need to have licenses to be a real estate salesperson. Instead, we should have something like a state registry, so you're officially registered with the state, but without a license requirement.
Or, in the alternative, they may want some kind of internship after they get their license, much
Right.
like an appraiser or something like that.
Something like that. I mean, we just don't know, but we do know that the real estate industry, as insiders, we know that the licensing requirements and the day-to-day job are not real closely matched. And we know that policymakers like the White House, they're concerned about this. They're taking a look at it.
We thought the only people who knew that were real estate licensees, but obviously not.
No, there are a lot of people paying attention to this, and I
go.
think we need to be aware of that.
And Rob, you mentioned also that commissions on the MLS have a lot to do with the price that you get and how long it stays on the market.
So this is, so I want to make this clear. I'm not mentioning this.
Okay.
I want that to be clear.
Okay.
What I'm doing is I'm reporting on a study that just came out. It was a very, it's a working paper by an organization called NBER. And NBER stands for the National Bureau of Economic Research. They're a pretty heavyweight think tank, with dozens of Nobel Prize winners in economics, 1,400 professors of economics on their research staff, number of former chairs of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. So they're a very influential, very important think tank. Well, three professors from UPenn, MIT, and Cornell just did a study. They just published it, called The Conflict of Interest and the Realtor Commission Puzzle. And what they found is that properties that are listed with less than sort of the normal cooperating compensation. So in other words, if it's 6%, then less than 3% to the buyer agent, or if it's 5%, less than 2.5% to the buyer agent. What they found is those properties are 5% less likely to sell,
Wow.
and spend 12% more days on market than higher commission properties.
That's an interesting correlation.
And you know what? I'm not a good enough economist or a mathematician to sort of challenge the validity of the study, so I'm just going to take what they say for granted. The issue I have with it is the authors end that paper by essentially recommending more regulation. Because the conclusion they come to is that buyer agents are steering buyers, they're steering consumers to properties where they will get paid more.
Higher commission, sure.
Here's my issue, right? That really threatens the entire justification and basis of buyer agency itself, which, as you know, is about, I'm a fiduciary of the buyer, so I'm going to do what's in the buyer's best interest, not about my interest.
Irregardless of commission.
Correct. And yet this study, what it's showing is, actually, it turns out, if you have a more commission rate, more buyer agents are going to
The bottom line is greed. Is that what you're telling me?
And here's the issue. If that is proven out, and like I said, NBER is a very influential think tank, I could very easily see regulators, whether it's CFPB or HUD or anybody, or legislators even, talking about, what we should do is disallow cooperating compensation, because clearly cooperation and compensation leads to harm for consumers. this is not my position. This is the position of this paper authors.
Sure.
But these are the types of things that I think we as an industry have to really pay attention to.
Sure. Somebody else is looking over.
Somebody else looking, and like I mentioned at today's talk, my take on it is we don't regulate ourselves, and we don't make sure that our like brokers and realtors are the best advocates for consumers, and that we're not doing the best that we can for them. Somebody's going to tell us, they're going to come in and regulate us. So to me, it's either better self-regulation or we're going to get regulated. And I would much rather have self-regulation.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Rob. It was
Thank you very much.
Thanks for stopping by. And remember, fellow realtors, the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.